baseball's best. Clayton Kershaw. He's won every major pitching award, including 3 Cy Youngs and a National League MVP. Madison Bumgarner, a 3-time world champion and the World Series most valuable player in 2014. A matchup of aces. The rivalry continues next. It is a beautiful night here in Southern California as the Giants and Dodgers renew their longtime rivalry at Dodger Stadium. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller with my crew. Welcome to Giants baseball. The Giants got roughed up in Colorado, and they need Madison Bumgarner tonight to go deep into the game because their bullpen's a little bit short-handed. Of course, he usually goes deep into a game, and he's going to have to be good because he's up against Clayton Kershaw, one of the best in the game. 2 of the best going head-to-head.
Clash of the Titans. Second time this year that these two have faced each other. This will be the 9th time that they've faced each other in their careers, which is quite remarkable. And you also consider the lifetime numbers. Bumgarner holds an edge over Kershaw, 4-2 with an ERA of 2.45. Kershaw has an ERA of 2.17. Oh, and by the way, Bumgarner has taken him deep twice. That's an edge.
No pitcher has gone deep against Kershaw except Bumgarner. And as you say, he's done it twice. The Giants are a little bit short-handed because they put a couple of guys on the disabled list since last we spoke.
Well, A-Ray Adrianza had a ball foul off his foot, his back foot, his left foot, hitting left-handed, and it broke his foot. And he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So the Giants have put in a call to Sacramento. Mac Williamson is en route as we speak. He should get here a little bit after game time. We don't know quite when, but they'll have 3 extra men on the bench to do their damage against Kershaw. All
right, and Derek Law brought up from the minor leagues as he replaces Sergio Romo, also on the disabled list. The Giants and Dodgers ready to play ball. We're going to have more from Dodger Stadium right after this. Jackie Robinson night here in L.A. The big crowd is gathering. We had some excellent ceremonies before, including Rachel Robinson, the wife of the great Hall of Famer Jackie Robinson. We'll talk about more of that a little bit later. Mike, right now?
Right now, it's time for our Roundtable Key Ingredients of the Game. Brought to you by Roundtable Pizza. The new sausage and sweet pepper supreme pizza is available at participating locations, including online and mobile ordering. Roundtable, the last honest pizza. Number 1, Pagan against Kershaw. Let's watch this matchup. I know he's hitting 267. That doesn't usually throw you, but that's the best average against Kershaw, and Pagan has been hot. He's leading it off tonight for the Giants. Number 2, Bumgarner versus Kike Hernandez. He's got some ownage, 7 for 13. He's at 538 with a home run. And number 3, coming out of Denver, they did not play great defense. They need to get the good defense, the good D, rolling again. And those are our Roundtable Key Ingredients.
Kershaw for the Dodgers and Bumgarner for the Giants. The great classic matchup. We're about ready to begin. We'll come back with the lineups in the first pitch after this. And before the game, for the ceremonies, the two ball clubs were lined up on the respective foul lines, and everybody tonight in honor of Jackie Robinson, both here and in every ballpark in the game, wearing the number 42. Rachel Robinson, the beautiful wife of Jackie Robinson, and then Frank Robinson, the first African-American manager in the game and also a former Giants manager. Frank Robinson threw out the ceremonial first pitch, met there by current Dodger manager Dave Roberts, the African-American manager of the Dodgers as of this season. Jackie Robinson, who on the 50th anniversary of his first game in 1997, it was announced by the commissioner of baseball at that time, Bud Selig, that his number would be retired in perpetuity. And nobody in the game wears number 42 because it has been retired all across the game. Now the Giants batting order brought to you by Audi. Visit a Bay Area Audi dealer today and get behind the wheel of the Audi model you've always wanted. The Giants have Pagan in left field as Denard Span is given a night off. Joe Panik at second. Buster Posey behind the plate. Hunter Pence in right field. Brandon Belt first base. Matt Duffy at third, hitting sixth. Kelby Tomlinson at shortstop as Brandon Crawford, who's never done well against Kershaw, gets the night off. Bumgarner hits eighth, and Gregor Blanco is in center field, batting ninth, with Span having the night off.
On the hill tonight for the Dodgers will be Clayton Kershaw, the 6'4", 225-pound, 28-year-old ace. 8 years at the big league level, and so far this year he's off to another great start. 1-0 with a 1.20 ERA, 14 strikeouts against 2 walks, just 7 base runners in 15 innings. And how does he do it? Well, the fastball will go 90 to 96 depending on how he grips the ball. He'll cut it, he'll sink it. Got one of the best curveballs in the game. Good hard slider. and a changeup, and he can strike you out with all of those pitches. Against the Giants lifetime, 16-7 with a 1.57 ERA.
Kershaw has been one of the great pitchers head-to-head with the Giants of all time with numbers like that, as you might well know. However, against Bumgarner, not quite the same story. First ball swinging, Pagan. It's a soaring pop fly. The shortstop Culberson gives way to the left fielder Kike Hernandez. One away.
Let's take a look at the Dodgers defensively. Starting in the outfield from left to right, it'll be Hernandez, Thompson, and Puig. The best arm in right field with Puig. It's a cannon. On the left side of the infield, it'll be Culberson and Turner. On the right side, Kendrick, joined by Gonzalez and A.J. Ellis. He'll be in the squad tonight, as he always is when Kershaw pitches.
Now Joe Panik will come up. And it's a called strike at 93 miles an hour. Bumgarner head-to-head against Kershaw. This is the 9th meeting between the two of them. A swinging strike 2. Kershaw is 2-4 and 3 no decisions against Bumgarner. Bumgarner is 4-2 and 3 no decisions against Kershaw. So Bumgarner's had a little bit the better of it in front of the plate with that fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
First scud I've ever seen him throw with a fastball. All the great stuff and impeccable command. Sometimes it's not fair, and he could be that way. He could be not fair when he gets them all rolling, and it happens.
Oh. Put him away.
And that's a cut fastball. Just late movement, perfect location to head the count 1-2, buries it below the zone. And Joe Panik's not an easy guy to strike out. He usually makes contact. Not here.
We don't often see Panik have a swing like that, especially with 2 strikes. Now Buster Posey. And Buster asks for time. Buster, one of the great hitters in the game today, hitting .333 so far this year, over a 300 lifetime batting average. But he's hitting only .228 lifetime against Kershaw with very little power. Besides that, 79 at bats and only 18 hits with 2 homers for Buster Posey against Clayton Kershaw. 2 down, bases empty. Out behind second base, Kendrick, and the inning is over. So now Madison Bumgarner will head to the mound. No score. The Giants down in order against Kershaw, now Bumgarner, to face the Dodgers. And here's their batting order. Kike Hernandez is in left field. Yasiel Puig, right field. Adrian Gonzalez at first base. Justin Turner at third base hitting cleanup. Howie Kendrick, second base. Trace Thompson, the brother of the Warriors, Clay Thompson, center field. A.J. Ellis, the catcher. Charlie Culberson, former Giants farmhand at short. And Kershaw, the pitcher, bats ninth.
On the hill tonight for the Giants will be Madison Bumgarner, 6'5", 250-pounder. He's 26 years old, and he's a 6-year veteran. This is what he has done in 2 starts, 1-0 with a 3.27 ERA, 14 strikeouts in 11 innings. When you take your at-bats against him, you're going to see a fastball that's low 90s, but with a natural cut that will bore in on a righty. He has a slider, a curveball, and a changeup.
Hit well. Deep left center field. It is gone. Long gone. 1-0 LA.
Kike Hernandez has continued to torment Madison Bumgarner. Not many guys can brag about the lifetime numbers against Bumgarner, but Kike Hernandez can certainly do it. I mean, that's 4 for 8 now with 2 home runs. First fastball he sees, he started out, he's laying in the bushes for it, and that was no cheapie either. Left center is not an easy place to hit the ball out of in this ballpark, although today there is carry in this field.
Now Puig. Did he swing? No. Larry Vanover is the first base umpire, and the crew chief for this group. The ball 1 to Yasiel Puig. David Rackley is behind the plate. Vanover at first. Alfonso Marquez at second. And Chris Guccione umpires at third. And the slider down and in. 2-0.
David Rackley, a plate umpire, I mean, he's a low ball umpire. He will give some width on the corners, but strikes you get early in the count, you're not always going to get him late in the count. For whatever reason, he's not a guy that likes to ring guys up normally.
Down the left field line toward the corner. Foul.
One more look at Kike Hernandez getting a fastball, just a challenge fastball to kind of get a feel of the mound. Here we go. And he just jumps on it. Just like that, Kike Hernandez gets this crowd into the game. I mean, that's halfway up down left center. That's a blast. But it also gives you an idea of how well the ball is carrying in this ballpark. A windy day in Southern California. Santa Ana's around, very dry. And when that happens, this ballpark really livens up. Even at night, when it normally calms down, it stays hot with the ball traveling all fields.
Pretty good rip there, right back to the screen. 2-2 now to Puig. Kike Hernandez, by the way, Mike, you mentioned how he's had great success against Bumgarner. He's now 8 for 14, 8 hits, 14 at bats, and 2 home runs in his career against the Giants ace. Just missing. Well, you were just talking about that.
I mean, for whatever reason, Rackley, he'll give you that pitch early in the count, but you count on it, you work for it, you make it with 2 strikes, and he stares at you. It can really frustrate a pitcher.
And he struck him out, chased the high fastball. So he caught him anyway.
First baseman number
Check out the Giants defensively playing behind Bumgarner tonight, starting in the outfield from left to right. It'll be Pagan, Blanco in the pitch, the best arm in right field. Tomlinson and Duffy on the left side of the infield. Panik and Bell will be on the right side. And Buster Posey will be in the squad, putting down the signs. Brandon Crawford getting a night off at shortstop.
Adrian Gonzalez, who's had only 7 hits in 45 career at-bats against Bumgarner, a 156 average. It's almost impossible to imagine, as good a hitter as he is, Gonzalez having that little success against anybody. And he chased out of the strike zone. 1-1. 1-0 LA. Kike Hernandez hit the first pitch of the night from Bumgarner. And according to the MLB at bat app, 451 feet was the approximate distance of that one. 109 miles an hour off his bat. Back out of play. And it's 1-2 to Gonzalez.
Well, batting practice today was pretty entertaining for both teams, and they were hitting them well into the second level of the pavilions on both sides of the field. And you don't normally see balls go up there.
Kike Hernandez. He had been with the Marlins and then came to the Dodgers last year. Been an important player for them. Up the middle. That's a base hit. So a rare hit for Gonzalez against Bumgarner.
Third baseman number 42, Justin Turner.
So Bumgarner will go into the stretch now with Justin Turner coming up. A couple of years ago, Turner had a 2-home run game here against Bumgarner near the end of the year. One nothing LA, 1 on, 1 out, and the curveball is low. Bumgarner and Kershaw matched up in San Francisco 6 days ago, and they both pitched well. In fact, when Bumgarner left the game, he was ahead 2-1. The Dodgers came from behind in the 9th inning to tie it and won it in the 10th inning. That's a foul ball right past third base coach Chris Woodward. And it's 1 ball, 1 strike to Justin Turner. Bumgarner and Kershaw. And really the only thing that Kershaw has not accomplished in the game is one of the great things for which Bumgarner is known, his great success in the postseason, especially in the World Series. This one is playable. Blanco. Adrian Gonzalez might turn around and go back to first.
Nice little cut fastball, got up the bat on Turner. He's not an easy guy to jam. He's very quick middle in. Well, I mean, there's no better reputation to have. Kershaw, I mean, he's done pretty well in the regular season. He's been an MVP, 3-time Cy Young Award winner, 5-time All-Star, Gold Glove winner. I mean, he's got some iron in his trophy shelf. But to do it when the bright lights are on, I mean, that's the one thing that means the most to players in the postseason.
And it's not to say that Kershaw hasn't had success in the postseason. He's pitched some excellent games in the postseason, but he and his Dodgers have never gotten to the World Series.
You know, I mean, the fate of the game can be cruel. I mean, I agree. I mean, he's not a guy that you can't say anything bad about Kershaw. You just can't.
Toward the middle, Tomlinson gets to it, and he throws out Howie Kendrick. The Dodgers get a run. The Giants will have to play from behind, as Bumgarner has a few words with the plate umpire.
22nd is golf night, presented by Swinging Skirts LPGA Classic. Your special event package will include a game ticket, see the Giants take on the Marlins, and more importantly, you're going to get a bobblehead of World Golf Hall of Famer and Bay Area native Julie Inkster. Call 415-972-2298 or go to sfgiants.com/special events.
Dodgers 1, Giants nothing as the Giants come to bat here in the second inning. Hunter Pence against Clayton Kershaw. Had a pretty good rip there, fouling it straight back. And this has been probably the worst matchup imaginable for Hunter Pence, especially against a left-hander such as Kershaw. Pence has 5 hits and 58 career at-bats against him.
Well, that makes him do. The one pitch that really gives him trouble is the slider. And really, I mean, you could say the cutter as well.
It makes him due for the past several years. He's been due.
Overdue. But, I mean, Kershaw does that to a lot of guys. It's not like he's just singled out Hunter Pence. One of the toughest guys in the world to hit, period.
Culberson. And he just got him. Pence will put some pressure on a shortstop on a ball like that.
Well, and I think it's remarkable. You know, he's got a power hitter's backswing. I mean, he takes him a while to get unwound, but once he gets it going, I mean, for a guy his size, 6'4", 230, I mean, he can move.
Well, last year he had a lot of games that he missed, but in his full seasons before that with the Giants, he'd beaten out more than 20 infield hits each year. There's a called strike to Brandon Belt, and Belt shot a glance back. Plate umpire David Rackley.
Yeah, you'll see a little rubbernecking tonight with some of the hitters, and you'll see a few stare downs from some of the pitchers.
Curve in the dirt, and Belt is another guy for whom facing Kershaw has been a nightmare. 3 hits in 40 at bats for Brandon Belt versus the Dodger ace. They've got the shift on, 3 infielders to the right of second. Too high.
However, Brandon Belt is really seeing the ball well right now. He hit a ball against Kershaw back in San Francisco, and he absolutely crushed it. It wound up getting caught in right center field, but he hit it very well.
Off the left field line, foul.
In any other ballpark, it would have been a home run. So, I mean, I think he's starting to get a. Now, I can't say he's seeing it better when you're his lifetime numbers are so bad, but he's hot right now, and he's seeing the ball in general very well.
Curveball. Kershaw gets to it. Kershaw made a very nice play. At first, it looked like it might go by him. It just wasn't hit very hard.
Well,
2 down.
Kershaw's pretty good at being square after he throws it. I mean, he's won a Gold Glove. He's got a slight crossover step, but he unwinds quickly. And for a guy his size, I mean, he moves well to cover that first base side of the field. Not always an easy thing for a left-handed pitcher.
So now Matt Duffy, 1-0, LA leading. And that will go out of play off the first base side.
Well, we've seen this before, where the Giants will be very aggressive on that first pitch against Kershaw. A lot of times that's going to be the best location pitch in the at-bat you're going to get.
Duffy had been struggling at the plate for a while, but he got a double and a single in his last 2 at-bats yesterday in Denver. Called a strike, got the high strike there, and it's 0-2. And the nice thing about those hits yesterday, the significant thing about them, I thought, they both went to the opposite field, and he hit them with authority to the opposite field. And he's behind Kershaw, 0-2. Strike through call. 6 in a row retired by Kershaw. Bumgarner heads back out.
choice for California. We go back to this date, 1958. The first Major League game on the West Coast was played in Seal Stadium in San Francisco. The Giants beat the Dodgers 8-0. Darryl Spencer hit the very first home run for the Giants. Orlando Cepeda, he also hit a home run. Ruben Gomez, he pitched the shutout, and Don Drysdale was the losing pitcher. That is our forward right choice. I played against Ruben Gomez.
Really? You must be a lot older than I realized.
Well, it was 1976. I was 24 years old, playing winter ball, and Ruben Gomez was the pitching coach for Bayamon. And Bayamon didn't have a very good pitching staff. And Ruben Gomez took it personal, and he said that he was better than them.
Trace Thompson, 1 ball, 1 strike.
So he pitched. He pitched a game against us, and we had like a major league team. It was unbelievable, and he threw 2 shutout innings.
Wow.
So I can say I played against Ruben Gomez. He's probably 53 years old at the time.
So the whole Giants and Dodgers as a West Coast rivalry began today. 58 years ago today at the old Seal Stadium. Ruben Gomez.
He was not a big guy.
Two and 1 the count. Hit very sharply, fielded cleanly by Duffy. Bit of a wide throw, but some nifty footwork there by Brandon Belt, and Thompson is retired.
Catcher number 42.
6 feet tall, 170 pounder. And he didn't win any more than that when he was pitching at age 54.
1 out, and here is A.J. Ellis coming up. Number 42. And of course, everybody is number 42 tonight, not just here, but all around the game. I remember doing the game back in 1997, the 50th anniversary. The Dodgers played in New York at the old Shea Stadium against the Mets. The President of the United States was there, Bill Clinton, Commissioner of Baseball, Bud Selig. That was the night Bud Selig announced, and it was kind of a surprise that from that day forward, the number 42 would be retired permanently in Major League Baseball. They grandfathered in players who wore number 42 if they wanted to continue to wear it until they retired. That was all right. So Mariano Rivera wore number 42 until he retired for the Yankees. And a swinging strike. And that's all for A.J. Ellis. That's a couple of high hard ones that Bumgarner has blown past Dodger hitters for strike 3.
So Rivera was the last guy to wear number 42 then.
He was. Here is Charlie Culberson, former Giants farmhand. 1-0, LA leading. But soon after that 50th anniversary in 1997, somebody had the idea of commemorating Jackie Robinson Day, the anniversary of his first game, the first African-American player to play Major League Baseball, to be allowed to play Major League Baseball, to have everybody wear number 42 as a tribute to Jackie Robinson. 2 down, nobody on. That's pulled foul. And it's a ball and a strike to Culberson. Jackie Robinson was a great athlete who played football, and he was an excellent basketball player. He ran track, and he was just outstanding in any of those sports. Rachel Robinson, his wife, told Joe Morgan and I that probably if the NBA had been around at that time, as big a deal as it was, he might have preferred to play in the NBA because he loved basketball. By the time he got to the big leagues, he was already 28 years old. And he had 10 seasons in the big leagues and then retired after he got traded to the Giants. Bumgarner missed badly with that one. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And the story went that because he was a Dodger and the rivalry was so fierce that rather than play for the Giants, he'd just as soon retire.
No, that's not the way I heard it, John. I just heard they couldn't get a uniform to fit him.
2-2 the count to Culberson. And Bumgarner with another high, hard one. 3 strikeouts for Bum in the first 2 innings. Tomlinson, then Bumgarner coming up against Kershaw.
Driving machine at Bay Area BMW.com. Last Saturday, Madison Bumgarner taking a bat against Clayton Kershaw, and he does this 12th career home run, the second time he has done it off Kershaw, which means that we are going to watch this at bat tonight very carefully. That is our BMW drive.
The amazing thing about Bumgarner with those home runs against Kershaw, there are very few actual hitters who've had at least 2 home runs against him. There's a called strike to Tomlinson from Kershaw. Bumgarner is on deck. Buster Posey, for instance, has 2. Troy Tulowitzki, Paul Goldschmidt, Joey Votto. And nobody seemed more shocked at Bumgarner hitting that home run against him this past weekend than was Kershaw. Oh, hit very hard, but gloved by Justin Turner, and that's why quickness is so vital if you play third base. He was pulled in for the speedy Tomlinson.
Well, quick hands and soft hands, and really a nice little backhand stab. I mean, he doesn't even move his feet. He just sort of bends his knee right into a backhand, and that's all he had time for. Nice play. Good player.
Bumgarner now. And that is into left field. In for a hit. Kike Hernandez, not quite. So Bumgarner, he got a breaking ball, and it's just as we thought. He wasn't going to see any more fastballs from Kershaw, and he hit the breaking ball.
Yeah, a little slider and kind of a hanger up around the belt. I mean, he doesn't get great wood on it, but as strong as he is, he doesn't have to hit it on the sweet spot to hit a line drive. He was talking to Billy Hayes at first base, going, would you tell the guys on the bench it's easy, let's go.
Here's Gregor Blanco now. Bumgarner with his second hit in 5 at-bats this year, both of them against Kershaw. Pretty good swing there by Gregor Blanco, who kind of got the short straw. He's a left-handed hitter. He's hardly played, been on the bench most of the year. So he finally gets a start. They said, hey, congratulations, you're in there. You're in there against Kershaw. Oh.
Well, you know, I always thought that was a pretty good assignment for a guy who was a bench player, 4th outfielder. fifth infielder. Because if you do something, nobody expects you to do anything. And if you go out there and get a hit or two, then it's like a feather in your cap.
So if you don't do anything, well, we didn't expect that you'd do anything.
Really, I mean, you got the perfect excuse. You haven't played. Saw Denard Span. He gets the night out tonight.
And that will be back out of play off to the left. So that was that's a very positive outlook.
Well, you know what? I wish it was me who came up with that. That was Roger Craig. I mean, Roger Craig was the greatest salesman on the planet, and he could make you believe in bad situations that you could overcome them and succeed in them. And he would convince bench players who hadn't played, 2 weeks, facing Nolan Ryan, not a problem. Just go out there. You don't expect to do anything. Just relax. Have fun with it.
Bumgarner steps back in the bag.
That's respect right there. A throw over to first base. Bumgarner.
You think he's really concerned Bumgarner's going to take off in a steal?
No.
It's interesting that they're even holding against him with that right side of the infield getting a little more open for the left-handed hitter. Curveball. Well, Blanco was headed for cover, and that big hook had a sharp break, but it stayed out of the strike zone.
Big breaker. It starts right at your head. I mean, you're going to bail on it. And when it finally winds up breaking, it wasn't that far out of the strike zone. A little high.
Might have been over the plate. 2-2 the count. Kendrick drops it. And everybody's safe. Kendrick wanted to get the lead runner, and then he dropped it, trying to recover and get Blanco, but Blanco was too fast.
It's just a sloppy exchange. I mean, the footwork was good. I mean, it's a high hop. The ball comes up for him above the belt. I mean, right there, it's an easy exchange, and he just boxed it. And he's usually pretty good. Once he gets his glove on it, going from glove hand to bare hand is usually a pretty automatic thing for Kendrick. So the Giants catch a break there. And this is, when you get an opportunity like this against Kershaw, you got to take advantage of it.
Angel Pagan has been one of the Giants who's had some success, comparatively speaking, against Kershaw. He's 0 for 1 in this game. Fastball for a strike.
He's definitely one of the hottest Giants. Came into this game hitting 371, but it's been a hard 371.
He's had 3 doubles, a triple, a home run, 450 on base average. Base hit can mean a run, although it's Bumgarner at second. To the right side and through. Base hit. Puig's got the great arm, and Bumgarner will be held up. Puig will run it back in. Bumgarner came tearing around third and then put the brakes on with the sign from Roberto Kelly, and then Puig, who's got such confidence in his arm, it looked like for a moment he thought maybe he'd just go ahead and throw the ball to third.
I wouldn't put it past him. And it's not an untamed arm. I mean, he's pretty good at when he picks the spots to throw, but you saw what he was looking at, the big team turn from Bumgarner. I mean, as a runner, you have to anticipate you're going to get the go sign. So that is a big turn.
Bases loaded for the Giants, and Joe Panik to try and get somebody home here. Panik struck out his first time. The middle infield double play depth for the Dodgers. 1-0, LA leading. Popped him up. So Turner, a very disappointing at bat for Joe Panik, who has not really been able to get it going so far at the bat this year.
Catcher Buster Posey.
Now Buster. Buster hit the ball pretty hard, but to the second baseman who threw him out in the first inning. So 2 down, bases still loaded for the Giants. Bumgarner singled. Blanco reached on the error by Kendrick, then Pagan singled to load the bases. Now Buster Posey. The great hitter, the great pitcher. Look out. To the backstop, and that will get Bumgarner home. It's tied up. Wow.
You just don't expect that type of mistake from Kershaw. And I think that can actually affect catchers. You know, A.J. Ellis catches him every time, he knows him well. And you're just not thinking that he's going to airmail one. And even at that, I mean, it probably should have been caught. Oh, almost gets Posey, but the Giants catch a break. Any run they can get a brand new ball game.
So now Posey could knock in 2 more. It's a 1-1 game. 2 runners in scoring position. Left field. Kike Hernandez with the dive. Nice play. A would-be base hit for Buster, taken away. The Giants have tied the game, though, as Bumgarner will face Kershaw when we come back. Everyone's talking Prius event, and everyone's talking Prius. Visit buyatoyota.com now for deals on the totally redesigned 2016 Prius. Lowest career ERA by a Giants pitcher versus the Dodgers. Well, back in the early days of the 20th century, Jeff Tesreau of the New York Giants and Juan Marichal, as Kershaw takes a strike from Bumgarner. And Madison Bumgarner, number 3. So in the 134-year history of the Giants, the 3rd best earned run average against the Dodgers belongs to this man, Madison Bumgarner. There was another guy, a right-hander, who also did real well against the Dodgers. He had the 5th best earned run average against them, Mike Krukow.
I didn't know that.
That's pretty good. Just one call that could have been called an error and was called a hit, and you might have been ahead of even the Hall of Famer Gaylord Perry.
I'm going to go back and relook at some of those records. You know, to say that you are better than Gaylord Perry in anything would be very cool.
Gaylord, one of the all-time greats. That strike 3 call to Kershaw, and he knew it. 4 strikeouts for Bumgarner.
Left fielder, Kike.
Well, get up to the minute you're up with Today in the Bay. See news that's happening right now. Weather and traffic every 10 minutes. Watch Today in the Bay weekdays starting at 4:30 a.m.
on NBC Bay Area, Channel 11, Cable 3, and 703.
One ball, no strikes to Kike Hernandez, who hit the first pitch thrown by Bumgarner tonight for a home run. One of his 8 hits in 14 career at bats against the Giants ace lefty. 2-0.
Well, we know Bumgarner, and if a guy takes him deep, he doesn't want to just get him out the next time. He wants to strike him out. This is how it all started out. First pitch of the game, boom. It's happened to Bumgarner 4 times in his career. 2 of those times have happened here at Dodger Stadium. The other guy to do it was Justin Turner.
Another one on its way back. Another tape measure shot for Kike Hernandez against Bumgarner.
And if you ask Kike Hernandez if he could explain it, he couldn't. It's just the way the game is. I don't care who you are, how good you are, there's somebody in the game that's going to own you. And right now, Kike Hernandez owns Madison Bumgarner.
Here's Puig. I remember here, when was it, a couple of years ago? In September, the Giants were here, and Justin Turner hit a couple of home runs against Bumgarner in a game. Curveball had him off balance. Bumgarner's under it, but here comes Brandon Belt to call him off. 2 down.
It is just one of those things you just can't even break down. I mean, but it probably isn't going to change. I mean, he just sees them well. In that batter's box, when Kike Hernandez is standing in it against Kershaw or against Bumgarner, that ball looks like a grapefruit. It just looks big to him.
So he now has 9 hits in 15 career at bats against Bumgarner, which that may be the best that anybody's done against Bumgarner by far.
Well, we're talking about family wiffle ball games too. I mean, we're going way back for that stat.
Adrian Gonzalez hit a single to center. Giants going to the complete overshift for him this time. They were not in that the last time. Right where Tomlinson is now. The ground ball. You see where Tomlinson is near the number 42 there. The ground ball hit by Gonzalez was right to where Tomlinson is now standing. 2-1.
Bumgarner's a little frustrated with David Rackney, the plate umpire, strike zone tonight. Plus, he's about half ticked off, giving up a second home run to Kike Hernandez.
Right there in the corner. Strike 2.
Nice fastball command the last couple of starts for Bumgarner. And really, that was something he struggled with all spring and even in his first start in Milwaukee.
Waco going back and is there. The Dodgers are back ahead. It'll be Pence, Belt, and Duffy coming up. 2-1 LA.
The weekend of April 22nd through the 24th, and on Saturday, April 23rd, we honor Matt Duffy with his first Major League bobblehead. The first 40,000 fans will receive one of these bobbleheads, courtesy of PG&E. You need tickets? Go to sfgiants.com/tickets.
2-1. The Dodgers back ahead, and Matt Duffy will be due up third in this inning. Hunter Pence leads off for the Giants against Kershaw. 2-1, LA leading. 1 ball and no strikes. Kike Hernandez. He has hit 2 home runs against Bumgarner in this game. 2-0. By the way, the first one by Kike, the MLB at bat app, said 451. The next one 435, which is a pretty good shot to straightaway left. There are his career numbers against Bumgarner. 3-0 now to Pence. The best batting average with at least 10 plate appearances against Bumgarner, Johnny Gomes, who's the last I heard he was playing in Japan this year. 615. Then Kike Hernandez.
You know, I always thought guys who were good middle-in hitters would be the type of hitters that would give Bumgarner trouble, because his strength is the inside corner to righties with a little cut to it. And guys who are quick middle in, I mean, those are the guys that I thought would be problematic for him. But it's not the case with Kike Hernandez. I mean, I think his strength is middle away. I mean, you go back and replay some of these home runs he's hitting off of Kershaw, off of Bumgarner, they're mistakes middle away.
Oh, back to the screen. 3-2.
So I think it's a matter of Bumgarner making some mistakes and Hernandez taking advantage of them. Johnny Gomes, very quick middle in.
Here's Thompson, and Bumgarner, or rather Pence, is retired.
Giants Baseball is brought to you in part by McDonald's. Download the McD app on your smartphone for great deals on the food you love at participating McDonald's.
Now Brandon Belt before the big crowd on Jackie Robinson night here in LA. Too high. Some of the other guys who've had a lot of success against Bumgarner. Alfonso Soriano. He was 9 for 16 against him. Ben Revere, who's still active, 7 for 14. And Giancarlo Stanton, of course, one of the great young sluggers in the game today, 8 for 16 against Bumgarner. And they'll be in San Francisco a week from tonight. The Miami Marlins in for 3. Half swing there by Belt and a foul ball. 1-2 to count.
That's not a swing he's going to be happy with. Yeah, Barry Bonds coming back to the Bay Area in a Miami Marlins uniform. How about that?
Barry is the hitting instructor for the Marlins and for Giancarlo Stanton. And that's all for Belt.
Challenge fastball. That's the type of fastball you swing through. You come back to the bench and you can't believe you missed it. Just a little cut to it right at the belt. Some hitters, they have big conversations with themselves walking back from the plate.
Here's Duffy. 0-1. Duffy was called out on strikes his first time. Dodgers 2, Giants 1 here in the 4th inning. And the curve in the dirt. We were talking about Bumgarner and some of the guys who've done well against him. Kike Hernandez with 2 home runs tonight now has 3 against him in 15 at bats. Carlos Gonzalez of the Rockies with 3 in 50 plate appearances. Chase Headley now at the Yankees, 3 in 39 plate appearances. And then Kike Hernandez. That's a little bit low, which is kind of remarkable. Kike, in many ways, kind of on a place all by himself in terms of figuring out Madison Bumgarner. Soaring fly ball into shallow left center. Trace Thompson, and the Giants go down in order. Turner, Kendrick, and then Thompson coming up against Bumgarner. 2-1 LA.
By PG&E. PG&E provides career opportunities for veterans and women through its Power Pathway Workforce Development Program. Learn more at pgne.com/Power Pathway. PG&E, together building a better California.
Justin Turner leads off for LA. Last of the 4th inning. The curveball. Whoop, called a ball. Turner hit a fly ball to left center his first time. 2-1 Dodgers. 3 hits for LA, 2 for the Giants. And the low fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now the Giants play here, and down the road in San Diego, the Padres playing Arizona. The starting pitcher at Petco Park for the D-backs is Zach Greinke. And that means that next week when Arizona comes to San Francisco, they'll be there on Monday through Thursday. But on Wednesday, when Bumgarner is due up again, Zach Greinke will be due up. So it should be Bumgarner, Greinke in Bumgarner's next start. 3-1 the count to Justin Turner.
Bumgarner wanted that pitch. Threw his arms up as if to say, where was that? That would have been a pitcher strike.
So
well, he's doing the smart thing. He's taking a little bit of walk just to kind of calm down. You can't let one pitch take you out of an at bat. You can't let one pitch take you out of facing a hitter, where you're worried about not getting a pitch and you don't finish up and concentrate through the next pitch.
Howie Kendrick grounded a short his first time. Lines one into center field for a base hit. Turner will stop at second, and The throw comes in behind Turner, so he stays right there.
You know, it's okay to get mad, but you have to get over it.
Center fielder, Trace Thompson.
And that's why those little walks that pitchers will take are so important. Get your brain back. Henry go up there looking for a first pitch challenge, getting it, going right back up the middle. Pretty disciplined at bat right there.
So now Trace Thompson, acquired in the offseason from the Chicago White Sox. Ball one, down and in. Thompson was acquired as part of a 3-team trade in the offseason. And that's a called strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. It involved the Dodgers, the White Sox, and the Reds. The White Sox got Todd Frazier in that deal, a powerful third baseman. On the right field line, twisting foul. Trace Thompson, one thing we know is he not only is an excellent athlete, he comes from a very athletic family. His brother Clay was a year older and 4 inches taller. He was drafted by the Warriors in 2011 and is a big star on that team heading into the playoffs starting tomorrow. Of course, their dad, Michael Thompson, played 14 years in the NBA. 2-2. And they had another brother who played briefly in the NBA with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Just got a piece of that curveball.
Well, we wish Klay Thompson and all the Warriors all the best of luck going into the playoffs. What a remarkable season the Warriors had this year. Completely has lit up the Bay Area and really basketball fans all over America. But now it's a new season.
Nobody out. The Dodgers with a threat against Bumgarner. 2-2 to Trace Thompson. He struck him out.
91-mile-an-hour cut fastball. I mean, and that's, he's not trying to cut. That's his natural fastball. It's got a little 3 or 4 inch slide at the end of it. Sometimes it's hard to see from the center field camera, but it really bores in on you. You look at it and see, well, gee, that was a lot of the strike zone. At that movement, at that velocity, that's not an easy assignment. And Thompson gets chewed up.
A.J. Ellis will be next. So you see it once again. Trace Thompson couldn't catch up to it. 2 men on, 1 man out. Called a strike. A.J. Ellis struck out his first time. Bumgarner has 5 strikeouts in 3 in the 3rd innings. Spin move. Turner back to the bag at second. 2-1 LA leading in the 4th. 2 runs for the Dodgers, both on Kike Hernandez solo homers. That's out of play. This inning marks the first time the Dodgers have put a runner in scoring position against Bumgarner. Turner led off, hitting with a walk. Then Kendrick single to center. Thompson struck out, 1 out with 2 men on. We mentioned that game down in San Diego, by the way. Arizona has a 1-0 lead over the Padres in the last of the second down there. Big pitches for Bumgarner here with 2 men on. Off the outside.
Just clean the palate, throw it away and low. He may just kind of extend and get after it. But now that he's seen away, it sets up inside. He can cut that fastball above the hands. He could bury a back foot slider.
Ooh, now that looked good, and Bumgarner very unhappy with the call.
Or the non-call. He went right back and cut the knees on the outside corner, and he made the pitch. He just didn't get the call. And this is what Rackley does. It frustrates him. You make a pitch, and he just doesn't bring guys up.
Two and two. This could be. Whoa! And everybody's safe. And another booted double play ball for Kelby Tomlinson. And those can be the difference between winning and losing a game.
Well, it's also going to get a lot more pitches out of Bumgarner. I mean, this is tailor-made. Just handcuffs him right at the heel of the glove. In desperation, tries to get the out at first and almost winds up throwing it away. So this has become an extreme stressful inning for Bumgarner. Right now, Tomlinson just not playing the infield with confidence.
Well, the last time Bumgarner faced Kershaw 6 days ago in the ninth inning, a double play ball. It looked like it would end the game with the Giants a winner. And he did not come up with that one, playing second base. And the Dodgers tied the game on that play and won it in the 10th inning. So, and I think the way you put it is exactly the way it is, not playing with confidence out there at the moment. Here's Culberson with the bases loaded and 1 out. Turner at third with Kendrick at second and A.J. Ellis at first.
And this becomes a challenge for Bumgarner. I mean, you want to pick up your teammate when he's made an error for you, and that's the goal right now.
And he was showing bunt there, taking a strike. With the bases loaded, showing bunt.
Well, they may be talking about. I just don't think Culberson's going to bunt here. I mean, I think he was just trying to take a look at a pitch, but they may be talking about if there is a squeeze, what are you going to do? Are you going to throw it inside or outside?
The wind, by the way, has picked up. Looking at the flags in center, it's blowing straight in from center field right now at Dodger Stadium. 1 strike to count to Culberson with the bases loaded. That's a base hit. So 1 run in. Kendrick waved home. He'll score. The throw went to second, and Tomlinson didn't know where the runner was. Wow. It's 4-1 Dodgers. It looked to me like Ellis would have been out at second base, but Tomlinson had no idea where he was.
Well, he was putting himself in a position to be the cutoff man for the throw at third. But Pence is thinking, if I can come in on this thing with an aggressive charge, I can get a throw off at the plate. So once he could not throw the plate, I think he may have surprised Tomlinson with the throw. Because there you see, he didn't know where the runner was, but really his assignment there was to beat the cutoff man. Once Ellis swung around second base, I think Tomlinson was thinking he was on his way to third. As his instinct was to get a throw off to third.
Kershaw with 2 men on, 2 runs in. injury playing a role in this game and this inning. Ehire Adrianza would have been the shortstop for the Giants tonight. This could be two. And Panic couldn't hold it. And the bases are loaded.
Now Dave Righetti going to come out, and this is just to give Bumgarner a little bit of a breather here. This inning's starting to run long pitch count wise. And this is what we started to see in Colorado. The defense started to break down. This is something that this team normally doesn't have to worry about. But they have not been playing stellar defense. And this is a situation with the pitcher Kershaw running. Joe Panic trying to be very, very quick to get the ball to Tomlinson to try and get that back into the double play. And then trying to be too quick in the exchange, he just simply boxes it. Right the belt, all ready for a backhand flip, and they get no outs.
Well, the Dodgers now with a chance to break this game open here in the fourth inning. Giants have booted two would-be inning-ending double play balls in the same inning. That's a fair ball. Ellis has scored. Culberson scores. Stopping at third, Kershaw on a double by Kike Hernandez. 6-1 Dodgers.
So I'm not convinced that Bruce Bochy feels that ball was fair. He's thinking that ball was foul. Take a look at if it bounces before. That's close. I mean, it doesn't. If it bounces before the bag, it does not have to land in fair territory once it goes by the bag. It just have to go. It just has to go over the base. And Chris Cuccione, the third base umpire, in his mind, looking right at it, he felt that ball went over the bag. Buster Posey is livid, and that's what Bruce Bochy was reacting to.
Kike Hernandez adds to his 2 solo homers with a 2-run double. Now Yasiel Puig. Shallow right field. Pence after a long run. Kershaw tagged and held at third.
First baseman.
Let's take one more look. Clearly bounces fair before the base. Now it's a question of whether or not went over the base. It did not land in fair territory. It doesn't have to if it goes over the bag. Mr. Posey was not happy, and that's exactly why Bruce Bochy came out and contested it.
A nightmarish inning for the Giants. And here's the 9th batter to come up in the inning. The veteran Adrian Gonzalez. Runners at second and third, 2 down. Called a strike. It appeared the inning was over with 1 out. On a ground ball by A.J. Ellis, but Tomlinson could not handle it. And then after a 2-run single by Culberson, Kershaw hit what looked like an inning-ending double play, and Joe Panic could not handle it. It's a lot of extra outs to be given in the same inning. The Dodgers have made good on it with 4 runs home so far.
Just can't give away extra outs, and it's also costing Bumgarner a lot of extra pitches.
Two and 1. 26 pitches thrown in this inning for Bumgarner.
Yeah, 9 of them were pitches he didn't have to throw. Now, from Bumgarner's perspective, though, you just keep trying to make good pitches. Can't change it. You just try and minimize it. This is a pitch he wanted here. Fastball away, just a little bit outside. Would have been a pitcher strike. And right now, when the roof is caving in on you, you're looking for any help you can get. Any corner pitch that's close, you want it. Ooh. Gonzalez was right on it.
3-2 the count. Gonzalez hit a single to center his first time. Flied out deep to center his second time. Kershaw at third. Hernandez at second. And that's all. But a long, nightmarish inning for Bumgarner and the Giants. 6-1 LA onto the fifth.
April 22nd through the 24th, that's next weekend. And Friday, April 22nd, first 20,000 fans will receive a 2 flaps down cap presented by River Rock Casino. And wow, does it look good on Jeffrey Leonard. And on Sunday the 24th, the first 7,500 kids 14 and under receive a Joe Panic backpack courtesy of C's Candies. You need tickets, go to sfgiants.com/tickets.
So you think Leonard would look great in that?
He does. I'm telling you, he can rock that double flapper. But I think he's going to wind up cutting one flap off. I just a gut feeling that I have.
Called strike to Kelby Tomlinson. He grounded out to third his first time. Madison Bumgarner is out on deck. Just off the outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Giants are way behind in this one. 6-1. Bumgarner ended up throwing 29 pitches in that arduous fourth. Nasty. 1-2 the count.
Well, he's got 3 types of breaking balls. One's kind of a flat cut. He can throw it around 90, 88 to 90. And he's got the slider you just saw. Then he's got the curveball. And they're all swing and miss. I mean, he's got a changeup, but he throws it like 2 or 3 times a game. It's like he forgets about it. But it's a good pitch. It's a swing and miss pitch.
A.J. Ellis. 1 away.
Nice play. Well, Giants fans, did you know that NBC Bay Area recently improved its over-the-air signal so more people can tune in with antennas? For instructions on how to rescan your TV, visit NBCBayArea.com/rescan. Check it out and tell a friend.
So Bumgarner comes up. Bumgarner hit a single in the 3rd inning on the first pitch he saw from Kershaw, and he then scored the Giants' only run of the game up till now. Well, came back with a fastball and he got it by him.
Well, he's got a 5-run lead.
Bounced the curve in front of the plate. Bumgarner's had 2 hits in 5 at bats so far this year. Both of the hits against Clayton Kershaw. And he bounced another one in there. 2-1.
Well, and you know, it's not something we've seen with any other hitter. I mean, he's overthrown the last 2 pitches to Kershaw. So, I mean, even with a 5-run lead, this is an at bat that's got a little something extra on it.
Got the call on that one. Now Bumgarner's unhappy on the other side of things with David Rackley, the plate umpire. And that's all.
Fourth strikeout for Kershaw. 3 of the 4 strikeouts have been swing and miss strike threes. You know, Madison Bumgarner, I mean, he gets hot quickly, but he cools down just as quick.
Gregor Blanco now. Blanco reached on an error by Howie Kendrick his first time. One ball, 1 strike, 2 down, nobody on in the 5th inning. Now 1-2. Giants have only 2 hits in the game. And the curveball puts him away. 5 strikeouts for Kershaw. Justin Turner will lead off when we come back.
Bottom of the 5th inning. Time now for our G play of the game. Last Friday, Trevor Brown hit a 2-run homer off Chris Hatcher with 1 out in the 8th inning. Well, why is that such a big deal? It was the first hit of the game. Tigers had a no-hitter going against the Giants. That one tied the score. The Giants would go on to win. It was the first career home run for Trevor Brown. Play of the game brought to you by Jeep Cherokee with an EPA estimate of 31 miles per gallon. It's the perfect choice. Visit Jeep.com for more information.
What a game that was in the rain. And a curveball for a strike to Justin Turner. He didn't like the call. Giants eventually won the game in the 10th inning on Brandon Crawford's home run. That's a week ago tonight. Tomlinson, 1 away. Turner's walk in the 4th inning started the 4-run inning for the Dodgers. They lead 6-1. As Howie Kendrick will come up against Bumgarner. Now remember, the Giants bullpen got torn up in Denver, and Bruce Bochy felt it was important for Bumgarner to be able to go deep into this game. They did bring up Derek Law from the minor leagues today to replace Sergio Romo, who's been placed on the disabled list. There's Derek Law alongside Hunter Strickland out in the Giants bullpen. Kendrick hit a single to center his last time and scored one of those 4 runs in the 4th inning. So Romo with a right flexor tendon strain. Law brought up, and then Eri Adrianza, who hit a foul ball down off his left foot and broke the foot. So he was placed on the disabled list.
Really an unusual injury, but we've seen it happen 3 times. We saw it happen with Matt Williams. We saw it happen with Bill Miller, and we saw it yesterday with Eri Adrianza. A foul ball that goes and hits your back foot.
And I don't know if we've actually seen him here, but we would have expected that Mac Williamson would be here by now. Arriving from Sacramento. Being brought up from AAA today. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Kendrick. And Bumgarner puts him away. That's 6 strikeouts now for Bumgarner.
Center fielder,
7 strikeouts.
You know, it's a funny thing about getting sent down or sent up. When you get sent down, you might take a day, maybe even 2 before you get down there and report. When you get called up, man, you're running to get to the ballpark.
And Trace Thompson takes a strike.
There's Derek Law.
The only time I ever thought that guys were in not a great hurry to get to the big leagues was when the Pittsburgh Pirates AAA team was in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Well, that's an excellent point.
Hey, congratulations, we're bringing you up to Pittsburgh. When can you get here? Oh, I don't know, 3-4 days.
Yeah. Weather's really good here. The surf is fantastic.
1-1 to Thompson. And Joe Panic. And a very quiet inning for Bumgarner and the Giants. 10 pitches and out. Top of the order, Pagan, Panic, and Posey coming up.
Change the way you experience TV only from Xfinity. Take a look at Christian Arroyo, the 20-year-old who had such a great spring training this season at Richmond AA in 8 games, hitting .375, .412 on base percentage, 2 doubles, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. He is lighting it up. Christian Arroyo, remember that name. That's our Xfinity Future Focus.
Now the Giants into the 6th inning. Pagan takes a strike. Pagan is flied out to shallow left center, and he is singled. Giants are 5 runs down to Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. Panic on deck, then Posey do 3rd of the inning. And a foul out of play. Well, you were talking about Christian Arroyo, and we saw a lot of him, especially in the early Cactus League games. And he made believers out of everybody. And we heard scouts from other teams who saw him play, and they said that they didn't realize just how solidly built he was. They had some sort of an image of him as a middle infielder, but he is very strongly built and had enormous power. Hit very softly, and that is going to be a hit. Turner wisely held on to it. Infield hit for Pagan, and that's what the Giants need. They need base runners, and lots of them.
Yeah, that's the first time tonight they've been able to get the leadoff hitter on. Chip away. Kershaw always very good with first pitch strike. Tonight he's faced 19 Giants hitters. He had strike 1 on 16 of them. Key to success: get the first strike of an at bat, get the first out of an inning, score the first run. You're going to do well.
Joe Panic 0 for 2. Strike 1. Panic struck out in the 1st inning and fouled out to the 3rd baseman in the 3rd inning. One ball, 1 strike.
Panic is the type of hitter that is very disciplined in the strike zone. When you see him swing out of the strike zone, his batting average will drop. Saw it happen early in spring when he didn't have a strike zone, which is fairly common in spring training. But when he finally got a strike zone, boom, he was hitting bullets everywhere. And now he's come up here and he just is not as dialed with the strike zone as he was the later few weeks of spring training. It all starts with getting good pitches to hit.
That's a base hit to right. Well, maybe that'll get him going right there. That's pretty good work against Clayton Kershaw with a 2-strike count.
Well, he had a nice pitch to hit. I mean, it was that little cut fastball right above the belt. Panic was a very compact route to the ball, and this is a little bit of a cutter. It just sort of lays right at the belt, an easy area to defend. Finds a hole to the right side. Plus, the other thing too, when you start getting hot, having those ground balls find a hole, that doesn't hurt you either. When you're going cold, that's a double play.
So here's Buster Posey now, 2 men on. Giants trying to catch up. 0-1. Buster got robbed of a hit his last time. It would be base hit to left field, and Kike Hernandez, there's that name again, made a diving catch of it.
Yeah, you're right. He's been the player of the night. He's playing pretty shallow in left field. Trace Thompson playing pretty shallow in center field. On a night where there's been lots of carry in this ballpark, that's a bit of a surprise with Posey up there. I mean, that's the type of set you see a defense play against Joe Panic. Not Posey. That's shallow.
2 men on, nobody out. Kendrick. That moves the runners up. Pagan to third. Panic to second.
Well, I mean, you still have time to have a productive out. Now, that wasn't his intent to get the runners over. He's trying to knock it out of the ballpark. But you know, you're here in the 6th inning. It's still chip away time. If they can put a couple on the board this inning, they could bring some belief back into that dugout. This becomes a big at bat right here.
Hunter Pence is grounded out to short and lined out to center. In the inside corner, 0-1.
He was looking for something softer. He was looking for something hard away, but he wasn't looking hard in.
Pence 5 hits in 60 career at bats against Kershaw. Base hit to the outfield could mean 2 runs right here. Big dropping curveball. Now it's 0-2.
Big curveball, and you get an idea just the size of this big arc. Starts off at his shoulder and it winds up just a bit above the dirt, almost in the dirt. That's a big league curveball.
So now he's in a deep hole, 0-2. That goes right by A.J. Ellis, and Pagan will score. Kershaw, as the carom came back to Ellis, Kershaw took the throw, or he tried to and actually never caught it. So it's 6-2. Second run for the Giants on a wild pitch.
Well, the wild pitch has been the offense tonight for the Giants. They'll take it any way they can get it. A little curveball in the dirt. Frustrating for a catcher not to be able to block a curveball, but this one was way wide of the plate as well. And I think it was 4 feet out in front of home plate. And scuds are unpredictable. You anticipate it coming up, it stayed down. Ellis had no chance. You can't fault him for that.
An extremely wild pitch. And 94-mile-an-hour fastball too low. 2-2. The infield is backed up, so even a ground ball to one of the middle infielders could get Panic home from third here. Giants down 6-2. Here's Panic alongside Roberto Kelly, the third base coach. And Pence gets a piece of it.
Yeah.
Foul ball.
Kershaw's pitching for the strikeout. I mean, it's the mode that he probably is most comfortable in. He's got lots of weapons to try and do it, but it's such an opportunity to put one more run on. Just have to put it in play. Easier said than done.
Two. Straight back to the screen. So Pence hanging tough here. Pence has knocked in 9 runs for the Giants. Tied for the club lead in that category. Tied, in fact, with Denard Span for the club lead in runs batted in. Panic at third, 1 out. And Hunter Pence wailing away on that one, fouling it back.
No hanger either. Hard slider right in the inside corner at the hands. That's not an easy pitch to barrel if you're hitting right-handed off of Kershaw. It was up, but it was in. And that's not a miss.
And he took that one.
Oh, that was a good take. Not an easy take. Hard back foot slider at 87. I bet he gets more strikeouts on that thing against right-handed hitters than anything. Somehow Pence laid off it.
3-2 the count. Base hit to left field. Coming in to score is Panic, and what an at-bat that was by Hunter Pence. It's 6-3 LA.
Now for the Giants, that's the at-bat of the night. I mean, that was will and determination right there. And every pitch he saw was quality. Now in that situation there, Kershaw's got to bite off a little more strike zone. He can't walk him. He's got a 4-run lead at this point. He lifts it up just a little bit, and Pence finds a hole. And believe me, that chirked everybody up in the Giants dugout.
So Brandon Belt will come up now. Kershaw, 82 pitches for the game. Working here with 1 out in the 6th inning. He's thrown 20 pitches in this inning, however. Belt has hit a dribbler back to Kershaw, and he is struck out. The high hard one, 0-1. The ball on a strike.
I think that Kershaw feels he can get Belt with that high fastball. Saw Belt strike out on it in his last at bat on a 1-2 count. And if you throw a high fastball at the Belt by a guy, you think you can do it on every pitch.
And the ball dropped by A.J. Ellis. Ball right around the inside corner. 2-1.
I mean, for a tall hitter, and Belt is 6'5". I mean, he gets right on top of the plate.
Rick Honeycutt, Dodger pitching coach, checking his notes as Kershaw goes back to work. 3 infielders on the right side of the infield. And Belt pulls a ground ball foul. 2-2 the count. Dodgers are really overloaded on the right side. We'll see how they're playing it. Culberson is still at shortstop. Justin Turner, the third baseman, is the guy in between first and second. The first and second baseman. Foul tip. He's still alive, just barely.
That's that high fastball. Just managed to scrape the horsehide a bit. I guess they use cowhide now. Used to be horsehide.
Two and two the count. 1 out, 1 on. 2 in. And 2 low. 3-2. Matt Duffy, the right-handed hitter, is on deck. And if Belt were to get aboard here, Matt Duffy would come up as the possible tying run as Dave Roberts. The Dodger manager looks on.
And the pitch count's starting to elevate too.
27th pitch of the inning coming up here for Kershaw. And a high pop fly. Culberson under it. And that is the second out. Duffy will head to the plate. Matt Duffy has struck out looking and flied out to shallow center. And a called strike on the outside. 90 pitches for Kershaw now, but 28 of them in this inning. Pagan led off with an infield hit. Panic singled. Posey grounded out. A wild pitch, got a run home, and then Pence singled home a run. Pence back to the bag at first. As Duffy bats with 2 down in the inning. We haven't seen Kershaw have high stress innings like this against the Giants very often, if we've ever seen it, and we may never have. He's thrown this many pitches. A called strike. 0-2 to Duffy.
Outside strike 1, inside strike 2. And Duffy in a quick 0-2 hole, and he was not happy about that second strike call. I think that was off the plate in.
Kershaw and Ellis gave chase, but it's a foul ball.
You know, when you face a great pitcher who's got great stuff like Kershaw, I mean, as you see Lewis Coleman heating up for the Dodgers in their pen. I mean, it's tough enough to face a guy who's got that type of stuff and that type of command. You don't want to have any help from the umpire. I mean, you don't want to have corner calls, pitcher strikes go against you. It can frustrate you in the middle of an at-bat.
4 runs is the most ever allowed by Kershaw in a game against the Giants. That's only happened 3 times. This is his 32nd career start against the Giants tonight. Giants have 3 runs on the board against him. This will be his 31st pitch of this inning. Culberson. And that's the inning. Giants get 2 back. It's 6-3 LA.
Toyota. It's Toyota's Everyone's Talking Prius event, and everyone's talking Prius. Visit buyatoyota.com right now for deals on the totally redesigned 2016 Prius.
Dodgers come up last of the 6th against Madison Bumgarner. And A.J. Ellis takes a called strike. Ellis, the 7th place hitter. Charlie Culberson on deck, and then Clayton Kershaw due up 3rd in the inning, although the Dodger bullpen is still working. Kershaw just had a 31-pitch inning. Very, very unusual to see Kershaw have an inning where he had to work so hard, a real high-stress inning, as Coleman is still up in the bullpen, as you see.
Yeah, I think Kershaw's done. We always talk about the importance of a shutdown inning, but this is absolutely imperative here for Madison Bumgarner. Giants putting 2 on the board against Kershaw in the 6th. I mean, they're thinking they're back in this ball game. He needs to answer with a 0.
Foul ball as Duffy gets to it. Giants with 3 runs on the board, 5 hits. Kershaw wild pitched 2 of those 3 runs home. That's a base hit into left center field. And it's going to be extra bases. A double for A.J. Ellis. His first hit of the game.
Shortstop, Charlie Culberson.
Dave Righetti goes to the phone to call the bullpen.
One thing on a night like tonight, which really ideal conditions, it's not going to take anybody in that bullpen very long to get loose.
76 degrees, the game time temperature. Beautiful night. Culberson hit a 2-run single his last time. And a good rip at that one.
Looks like Corey Guerin is starting to heat up.
Base hit. And that'll make it 7-3 LA. Consecutive hits to start the inning as Ellis crosses the plate. And that's 3 RBIs for Culberson. He may be having his favorite game in his young big league career tonight against his old organization.
Yeah, those 2 swings of the bat right there are going to keep Kershaw in this game. Now they can bunt Kershaw, put him right back on the bench.
Seven to 3 LA. A double and a single to start this inning against Bumgarner. Of course, the flip side of that very long Giants half of the 6th inning was Bumgarner sitting around all that time. He just had one of his best innings of the game in the Dodger 5th inning.
And it does make a difference too when you have a long time, especially your 5th or 6th inning. It's late. You've thrown a lot of pitches early on in the season. In April, you're vulnerable to getting stiff, because right now Bumgarner really hasn't missed much with fastballs up all night long, and he's missed twice here, and both times the Dodgers have taken advantage of him.
Kershaw showing bunt. He swings away. Tomlinson in the dirt. And Kershaw giving everything he had, hustling up the line. And the hurried throw is in the dirt. And this time Belt could not dig it out. And that will be all for Madison Bumgarner.
Three-air night for the Giants defense. Talk about the problems that they had in Colorado, and they brought it right into this game.
So Bumgarner departs. Guerin coming on. And he and the Giants trailing 7-3. Although the Giants defense did not help him very much tonight. 3 errors behind him, 2 by shortstop Kelby Tomlinson. 3 official unearned runs so far, although the Giants had a couple of errors on 2 different would-be inning-ending double plays back in the 4th inning.
Now, kind of a slug bunt, hitting it to the left side of the infield. Kelby Tomlinson off the right foot, throws low, and Brandon Bell cannot come up with it. And it's just been a defense tonight that we're just not used to seeing the Giants have. It really has failed Bumgarner.
Kike Hernandez to face Corey Guerin. Guerin just in from the bullpen. And Kike Hernandez has been the big star tonight for the Dodgers. 2 solo homers and then a 2-run double in the 4th inning. 3 for 3, 4 batted in.
So Bruce Bochy looking for a ground ball, brings out the single ball specialist Guerin. Sinker slider, he's got a changeup he'll also throw, but everything he has downward movement, and everything he has can get a ground ball.
This could be 2. There's 1 at second. Panic back to first in the dirt, and Belt grabs it for the double play. The first 2 outs of the inning as Culberson goes over to third.
So Bruce Bochy getting what he was after. 1 pitch, 2 outs. It just hasn't been easy in anything the Giants have done. Ball low in the dirt. 1 hop dug out there by Belt.
I was just wondering if under the new sliding rule at second base, I mean, it looked like Kershaw slid across the bag.
Well, you can't do that.
So that might have been a double play, whether Belt handled that throw or not, as Puig gets one right back to Guerin. Corey Guerin gets 3 outs on 3 pitches. Very well done. 7-3 LA leading. On to the 7th inning. Tomlinson coming up.
Got pregame live and postgame live before and after every regular season Giants telecast on CSN Bay Area, Authentic Bay Area Sports. And you can see the Giants tomorrow night on CSN, game 2 of this series. Pre-game starting at 5:30. Johnny Cueto going to be on the hill for the Giants, taking on Scott Kazmir. That ought to be another well-pitched game.
Kelby Tomlinson is Kershaw back out for the 7th inning. Tomlinson has gone 0 for 2 against him. By the way, with the pitcher due up next, the Giants have Mac Williamson, just called up from the minor leagues today, out on deck. And the curve is in the dirt. 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's Mac Williamson, brought up from Sacramento today with Ere Adrianza placed on the disabled list. 1-2 now. San Diego leading Arizona, and Zach Greinke 2-1 in the last of the 5th inning down the road in San Diego. Right over the outside corner, that little slider, strike 3 call. 6 strikeouts for Kershaw. And here comes Mac Williamson. Williamson was the talk of the Cactus League there for a time. And he was hitting, not just hitting home runs and long home runs, but he was hitting home runs to all fields down in the Cactus League. In too tight with that fastball.
Oh, right on the hands with that cut fastball. The target is the belt. And then followed up with a nice tight little slider that falls off the plate in.
Another one.
I think anytime Kershaw sees a tall right-handed hitter, I mean, he doesn't even think the outside corner. Show one away and then get set up to burn one in on your hands.
2-2 to Williamson. And he somehow got a piece of that one.
You just can't go up there thinking long swing, like you're going to drop that back shoulder and try and lift and separate and hit a ball in the ballpark. You just have to get short, quick. Almost puts you in a defensive mode. He's got such great stuff and late movement on all his pitches.
Full count now. 3-2 to Mac Williamson. Big, strong. We saw him up with the Giants late last season. And that is hit a mile high. Turner. And it's out of play. Beyond his reach.
That was up there. Well, I mean, Williamson, lots of power, even in pop-ups. What a clown.
3-2. And just gets a piece of that one.
It's been a great at-bat for Williamson.
Kershaw, who just threw his 105th pitch. The Giants' Derek Law warming up in the bullpen, who came up from the minor leagues today along with Williamson. Looks as though we will see Law. There he is in the last half of the 7th. Culberson got him.
Well, a 9-pitch at bat. And gets sent back to the bench on a nice play by Culberson, the shortstop for the Dodgers. Let's take a look at what a big league shortstop can do, and a ball hit to the hole. Sort of slides into it, sets his feet, and unleash the beast. Not too many shortstops in this at the big league level are out there without cannons, and Culberson's got a great arm. Came up with the Giants organization.
Gregor Blanco A.J. Ellis picks it up. Oh, just got him. Nice play. Derek Law will soon make his major league debut. The Giants trailing 7-3.
At Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and much more. So download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. The pitcher now for the Giants making his major league debut is Derek Law. Law was a 9th round pick for the Giants in 2011. And he really was on a fast track. If you look at his numbers prior to this season, 193 innings in the minor leagues. He had 249 strikeouts and 59 walks. You say, well, how does he do it? He's got a low 90s fastball with a curveball and a split, and they're all strikeout stuff type pitches. He can get you to swing and miss with everything he has. There's the Law family. 2014, he had an elbow injury. He had to have Tommy John. Well, this is a moment they've all been waiting for.
And his dad, whom we saw there, Joe Law, spent 9 years in the farm system of the Oakland Athletics and got to the big leagues for 4 days with Oakland. There he is on the left, Joe Law. Adrian Gonzalez, and there's a look at that curveball, and he has a great curveball.
He's got a great split. You just don't see many overhand curveball split finger fastballs from the same guy.
0-2 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. 1-2. Well, he really got the attention of everybody back in 2013 when he got sent to San Jose. Pitched 25 2/3 innings, 45 strikeouts, 1 walk. Now that's a strikeout to walk ratio, 45 to 1. His dad, Joe, the A's had a doubleheader. He tells the story, and they brought him up from the minor leagues just to have an extra arm, but he never got into a game. And that's all for Adrian Gonzalez. The first batter that Derek Law faces is one of the best hitters in the game, and he struck him out.
He's jumping right in the fire. He's facing the 3, 4, 5 guys and one of the best RBIs in baseball the last 10 years. And whoop, grab some pie and meat.
Justin Turner. Who is 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. Ball one. But his dad told the story. He was on the A's roster for 4 days. He even got a signal to start warming up in the bullpen. And they never brought him in. His mom, Tracy, a registered nurse, called a strike on the inside. 2-1 now.
The 2013 year, you're talking about 66 and a third, 102 strikeouts. That was Arizona League, Augusta, and San Jose. You're getting 2 strikeouts an inning, just about. I mean, that really sets you apart from the herd. I mean, if you have 1 strikeout an inning, and you're averaging 1 per 9 or 9 per 9, that's great. When you start going up around 2 strikeouts an inning, yeah, guess what?
Well, they're all asking. It looked to me like they were all asking Adrian Gonzalez, what is that? What was he throwing down there? And Gonzalez was giving it the motion, and well, it came in and then it did this. It was, I don't know what it is, but I couldn't hit it. Three and 2 the count as they all get their first look at Derek Law. Pens, no, and he'll have to go chase it. It's a triple for Justin Turner.
Got to be a do-or-die play for Hunter Pence. You're down 4 runs. I mean, really, if I'm out there pitching, I want a guy to do this. Take a chance. And he just is a little short. So it winds up being a 3-bagger. And it sets up a strikeout situation for a guy who can pitch the strikeout. And Law's going to get challenged right now.
The infield comes in. That is just foul. Off the bat of Howie Kendrick, who is 1 for 3 tonight. And Derek Law, who shown himself to be a pretty good strikeout pitcher in the minor leagues, would like to get a strikeout right here in the big leagues. With a runner at third and 1 out.
You know, I mean, he's got such great secondary stuff with the curveball split, and he's even got a slider. You kind of forget that the guy can go mid-90s with velocity. I mean, that was 95. Obviously pumped up tonight for good reason. He's waited a long time for tonight.
Wow. Struck him out. Nasty pitch. 2 down.
Mom was not surprised. She's cheering one-handed right now. And watch the reaction on the swing and miss. That's great.
So 2 down. Trace Thompson now, who was grounded out, struck out, and grounded out again. A little bit high at 95 again. 7-3, LA leading. Derek Law in his major league debut. Law is 25 years old. And that stays a little bit high.
That could have been called a strike.
Two and 0 the count with a runner at third. Blew it right by him.
All the time Law was on the DL rehabbing from the Tommy John. I mean, he opened up a Twitter account, and he's really quite entertaining. He's got a good sense of humor, and it kind of kept him a part of the team with some of the things he was doing on the Twitter page.
Foul tip off off the mask of the plate umpire, David Rackley. And there's Derek Law's family. His dad, Joe, who built a mound alongside their house in Pittsburgh when Derek was only 7 years old. He'd go out and pitch on that mound. Back to the screen.
Well, I mean, Derek Law was born. I mean, the old man hung a jockstrap on the bassinet too, so he kind of knew why he was here. And here it is, the night they've all been waiting for, and it's pretty cool that, I mean, he got the call, and obviously he got up here as fast as he could, and they got the call, and they got here as fast, and they had to come from Pittsburgh.
3-2 now. His dad says that he wasn't happy with the way his own career went. 9 years in the minor leagues. But he said, on the other hand, it gave him a lot more time to spend with Derek, which he said, how could you replace that? And he is very thrilled that Derek got here.
Boy, you know, that if you look at it, you say, well, why did he throw it to third base? He stepped off the mound before he faked that move to third. If his back foot had stayed in contact with the base, he would have had to go ahead and made a throw. It was very quick to step off.
Strike 3 called. Yes. That is a pretty strong first inning in a major league debut, and the Law family loved every moment of it.
Giants coverage on Sportsnet Central every night at 10:30 p.m. CSN, authentic Bay Area sports.
Here we go to the 8th inning. A new pitcher has come in for the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw's night is now over. And here is Chris Hatcher in to pitch.
Hatcher, setup man for the Dodgers. See what he has done in 4 games. 1-1 with a 5.4 ERA. He throws hard. He'll go mid to high 90s with the fastball. He'll 2 and 4 seam. He's got a cut to the fastball, a slider and a split. But I mean, he thinks fastball. He comes at you.
And he throws very hard. And ball 1. He starts him with a slider to Angel Pagan. who's flied out to shallow left center, singled, and then he beat out an infield hit in the 6th inning that started a 2-run rally. So he's 2 for 3. Popped up foul, and that'll go back out of play. Kershaw went 7 innings, gave up 3 runs, 2 earned on 5 hits, 6 strikeouts, no walks. To the outside. Back to that slider. 1 ball, 2 strikes now to Pagan, who with his 2 hits in this game is now hitting .395 for the year. We're in the 11th game of the season for the Giants. Trace Thompson, and 1 away. Now Joe Panik will come up. Panik is 1 for 3. He singled and scored a run in that 6th inning rally. On Jackie Robinson night, we saw Derek Law's major league debut in the last of the 7th inning for the Giants. And one of the things we were told about Derek Law, he loves baseball history and is a guy who loves to read baseball history. And he has a particular interest in the old so-called Negro leagues. If you were an African-American player, you couldn't play in Major League Baseball until Jackie Robinson became the first to break the color line, as they called it. And Derek Law has a fascination with the history of the old Negro leagues. And that's a ball too low.
Well, it's a great history, and if you've never seen the Ken Burns documentary on baseball, it really gives you a lot of the history chronicled with a lot of footage, and it had some unbelievable players. Baseball got a whole lot better because of Jackie Robinson, and we celebrate him today, as we should. And it's pretty cool that nobody's going to wear 42 ever again.
Except every year on Jackie Robinson Day, when everybody wears number 42, as is the case today. 69 years ago today, Jackie Robinson played first base, which he wasn't a first baseman, he was a second baseman. But they wanted him to play first base on opening day that year at the old Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. And so he did. Panik hanging on. 2-2 the count.
You know, back in the day when baseball guys were making a lot of cash, so when the season ended, you know, a lot of the big players, the name players, they would barnstorm. And some of the most attended barnstorming games were those rare moments when they would have the All-Stars from the Negro Leagues playing the All-Stars from Major League Baseball.
Fielded with the soft hands by Adrian Gonzalez. 2 down. Well, Jackie Robinson was not just a great player, but he was an exciting player, and he disrupted games. As you see the kids leaning over the railing, trying to get his autograph. Right-handed hitter, great speed, a great bunter, could hit with power, and it was not a rare thing to see him steal home, a straight steal of home. Big photograph of the old Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. Here is Buster Posey, 2 down, nobody on, and a foul will come back out of play.
But the concept of a color line was talked about for many years before it actually happened. And you go back to some of the, and again, you can, the Ken Burns documentary really gives you a history of it, and it shows you the footage that they have from the All-Star games played on Major League parks like Comiskey Park in Chicago. And when it finally did happen, I mean it happened so slowly that it's made our game great.
Well, there was a time when Monty Irvin who eventually would sign with the Giants, was thought to be the most likely to be the first from the old Negro leagues to play in Major League Baseball. And Monty Irvin spent several years in World War II, and he said, I'm not the guy for the job right now because I've got to get my playing shape back and my batting eye back and whatnot. You need somebody who's ready to go right now. And Branch Rickey, who ran the Brooklyn Dodgers, eventually decided that Jackie Robinson was the guy. Buster fighting, battling against Chris Hatcher, stays alive. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And it's a well-known story. Branch Rickey told Jackie Robinson, made him agree, you're going to get all kinds of vile hatred, and people are going to throw at you, and they're going to try and provoke you, and you cannot respond. And that was not Jackie Robinson's nature, not to fight back. But that was part of the story of how that first year unfolded. Because has any player ever had the kind of pressure riding on his shoulders as Jackie Robinson to succeed? And he succeeded in a very big way. Buster Posey called out on strikes on Jackie Robinson Day. We're at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers lead the Giants 7-3 as we go to the last of the 8th.
Game 2 of the series, and we'll be back with you on NBC Bay Area and the Giants Television Network next Friday night at 7 for the Giants and Marlins. Game 1 of that weekend series, and the Giants tee it up against the Fish from AT&T Park. Tomorrow it's going to be Johnny Cueto, the right-hander, taking on Scott Casby.
Lead off for the Dodgers, catcher number 42, A.J. Ellis.
Derek Law made his Major League debut tonight after Sergio Romo was placed on the disabled list. Law was brought up from Sacramento. So his first inning of big league work is in the books. 3 strikeouts in his 1 inning. He did give up a triple to Justin Turner, but stranded him at third base. And here's George Katos in now. A.J. Ellis leads off and takes a called strike. So your evaluation of what you saw from Derek Law.
Oh, he was nasty. I mean, I think he's going to do well up here. He's always had the stuff. I mean, he'd have been up here a couple years ago if not for the Tommy John surgery he had to go back, and it took him a long time to get back. It wasn't an easy rehab for him.
Slider a little bit low, and the count is 2-1 to A.J. Ellis, who is 1 for 3. Scored 2 runs. He reached on an error by Kelby Tomlinson in the 4th inning. A would-be double play ball that, had they turned the double play, would have ended the inning with nobody scoring. As it turned out, they ended up scoring 4 runs in the inning. Now it's 3-1. And Ellis hit a double against Bumgarner in the 6th inning and scored a run, the 7th run. And the Dodgers lead this game 7-3. That's a called strike. 3-2. Arizona and San Diego are in a 2-2 tie, top of the 7th, down in San Diego. Zach Greinke against James Shields, the matchup there. That foul ball out of play.
You know, Greinke threw well tonight. He did not have a good first 2 starts for the D-backs. Looking at the score there, he obviously pitched better tonight.
Three and 2. And he walks him. So Ellis is aboard to start off the 8th inning.
Number 42.
The last half
Charlie
of the 8th.
Culberson.
And now Charlie Culberson will come up. Culberson, after making his way through the Giants farm system, tonight is having an exceptional game against his old team.
He had a nice series up in San Francisco too.
Hunter Pence into shallow right. So 1 away. Culberson promptly retired. He had 2 singles and 3 runs batted in earlier as Derek Law's family.
Hitting for the Dodgers.
His dad, Joe.
Number 42, Chuck Peterson.
And that's his mom, Tracy. You think they're inundated with text messages from friends and relatives around the country?
Absolutely blown up right now.
I like it. His mom's wearing the Giants colors.
Oh yeah, she's got the feel. Special night for the whole family, and the fact that they all could get here. I mean, they rallied. They got here quickly from Pittsburgh. Not an easy thing to do.
Jock Peterson, the pinch hitter for Chris Hatcher, with 1 out and a runner at first. 53,449, the paid crowd here at Dodger Stadium. They have a big fireworks extravaganza scheduled for right after the game. Dodgers lead the Giants 7-3. Strike called on the inside. Jock Peterson not in the lineup against the left-handed Bumgarner tonight. He has 1 home run so far this year, hitting .286. And it's 1-2. Peterson has also struck out 12 times in only 28 at-bats.
We were watching his batting practice today. A lot of top spin line drives, a lot of fillets to left field. He's collapsing that back shoulder. I mean, he's dangerous no matter what. He can run into one and hurt you. He's got power all fields, but he does not really have great control of his swing right now, which explains the strikeout total.
And he swung at it, and he is very unhappy with David Rackley making that call himself.
Left fielder, number 42, Kike Hernandez.
Did he go? Well, I guess he did. Very close. I can see why he's upset.
Well, I don't think he would have hit it if he'd made it wouldn't have been a tape measure home run. But
No.
Kike Hernandez, and he's been the big bat tonight for the Dodgers. You know, Kike Hernandez had never hit 2 home runs in a game before. And he hit home runs in his first 2 at-bats tonight against Bumgarner. So Hernandez this may be his best game as a big leaguer. That's back to the screen. Hernandez with 4 RBIs in this one. And that equals his career record. He's only done that one at a time. He is only the 3rd player ever to have 2 home runs in the same game against Bumgarner. Justin Turner 2 years ago right here at Dodger Stadium hit 2, and Aaron Hill when he was with the D-backs 4 years ago in Arizona hit a couple. Duffy gets the force out at second with Panic covering, and that ends the inning. Last chance for the Giants. Pence, Belt, and Duffy coming up. 7-3 LA. The Giants as we head to the 9th inning here in LA. And Joe Blanton has come on to pitch for the Dodgers. Blanton, who resurrected his career last year as a bullpenner. Part of the season was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he really got things put back together while he was with the Pirates. He started the year in Kansas City, and he both started and relieved in Kansas City.
A 10-year vet. I mean, he may hang around for a few years in that bullpen. He's a 4-pitch guy, really got good command. Unusual, very compact, high 3/4 short arm release. Always been a strike thrower. I mean, he doesn't make many mistakes out over the middle of the plate. But he's durable. He's got a good arm.
Hunter Pence with a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Pence 1 for 3 with an RBI in this game. He had one of the Giants' best at bats of the night against Kershaw in the 6th inning. Wow, that was a wicked looking pitch. A slider down and away. 1-2. Pence finally, after fouling off some tough pitches, and got a base hit to knock in a run. Joe Blanton used to be a starting pitcher. Broke in with Oakland, then went to the Phillies. He was on some excellent, some of the best Phillies teams. Now it's a full count.
Well, I mean, he's a long man now. I mean, if some starter goes down, he has to make, or it gets knocked out early, I mean, he's going to be the guy go in. But he can also come into an existing situation, a pitch situation for you.
Strike 3 called.
With Blanton, you expect anything at any time. And that's a 3-2 breaking ball.
First baseman Brandon Belt.
Blanton is now 35 years old. Broke into the big leagues in 2004. Brandon Belt will come up now. Hitless against Kershaw. So what else is new? That's ruled a swing on appeal by Chris Guccione, the third base umpire.
It didn't look like he put a lot of effort into that. I mean, if I'm third base umpire, man, you get one call like that, you got to kind of juice it up a little bit, don't you?
So you mean he didn't put a lot of effort into the kind of a call he made?
Yeah.
Almost as if he didn't really believe it deep down.
Yeah, so yeah, whatever.
So you give that kind of a signal, it's more like saying, swing?
Yeah. Ninth inning. I'm hungry.
2-1 the count to Bell. And Blanton throws him out. Two down. It was the great classic matchup, a pair of aces, Bumgarner and Kershaw. And for Bumgarner, he was gone all too soon. 5 innings plus, 7 runs, only 4 earned, 7 strikeouts. Kershaw went 7 innings, 3 runs, 2 earned. And there's ball 1 to Matt Duffy. In this ballpark, in 3 Dodger Stadium starts against each other, Bumgarner had won all 3 of them. So now Blanton is 1 out away from securing Kershaw's first win against Bumgarner in this ballpark. Giants also, with 2 down in the 9th, have not had a home run in this game. Giants had homered at least once in each of their first 10 games of the season. An all-time Giants record in the history of the franchise and that sort of thing. They had hit 19 home runs in the first 10 games. None tonight. Now they're down to their final strike. Matt Duffy 0 for 3 in the game. Kike Hernandez has been the guy tonight. Maybe his best game as a big leaguer. 2 homers, a double, 4 runs batted in. Game over. The Dodgers take game 1 of the weekend series. 7-3, the Dodgers over the Giants here in LA. And Kershaw, for the first time at Dodger Stadium, his home park, beats Madison Bumgarner in the head-to-head matchup. Kike Hernandez did most of the heavy lifting on offense, that's for sure. Jackie Robinson night all over with for the Giants and Dodgers, but not for us. We'll be back.